Welcome back to an episode of I'm Glad You're Here. Today's guest is Maya Andreeva. I connected with Maya here in LA at the Hollowed Ground studio. She teaches Kundalini, sound healing, and Juta energy healing, which is her own energy healing practice that she's cultivated herself. This episode is so fun for me because we really dive into Maya's personal story, how she developed all these different tools, how she found them, and their impact in her life, as well as some practical wisdom on what these tools offer and how we can start to develop different relationships with them. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get to the episode. Okay, so Maya, welcome to I'm Glad You're Here. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. It's been such an honor getting to know you through the classes that you teach in Los Angeles. I first came to your Juta energy healing class and then your Kundalini, and you're just such a deep healer. And I'm so excited to just learn more from you today.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm so glad that we crossed paths.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So where do we start? I'd love to dive into Kundalini Yoga with you, your relationship to the practice, how it's evolved over the years, and kind of where you see it now and how that kind of takes part in your life.
Sure. Kundalini Yoga has a very special place in my heart because it really found me in a very pivotal time in my life when I wasn't feeling good at all about life, about myself, and I was depressed and searching for answers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And the story of how Kundalini Yoga found me is really, really extraordinary because it really shows that there are signs in life, that the universe sends you signs and guidance. And sometimes we're not able to see them and understand them at the time. And then when we look back and we connect the dots, it's like mind-blowing. And Kundalini Yoga has really, really changed my perspective. It has really helped me come back to myself, come back to my center, and has taken me out of that place of darkness and feeling that life is a burden that I have to carry and it's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
And it rather has given me that perspective of it is up to me how life is unfolding and how things are happening. Rather not what's happening around me, but how I perceive it. And I feel like as human beings, but I will speak for myself, for the longest time, I would think that everything is happening to me rather than for me, that things are happening so that I can feel bad and miserable rather than seeing them as an opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like that's so common that we're all like, why is this happening to me? Instead of feeling empowered.
Right. But when we are in the midst of it and when we feel discouraged, defeated, it's hard to like pull your head out of the mud and be like, wow, this is not me and I have a choice here. Yeah. And that's one thing Kundalini Yoga has shown me is that the more I grow my awareness, the more I have power of my surroundings and how my life is unfolding. And of course, it's easier said than done. And so it's a constant practice and constantly growing through life with the different tools that are now widely available to us and not like even 50 years ago, but centuries ago, those practices were one, hidden from the public, and two, not really accepted by the public, like the majority of people. And so now that we have the internet and we have so much more access to different information. It's really so much easier to navigate through life.
Yeah.
But it is still up to us to take on that journey and learn, and not only learn the practices, but put them into practice, actually doing the things that we know we should be doing. Totally. And when I say we, I'm talking to myself, of course, because I always need the pep talk.
No, we all need a pep talk. And life is also a lot crazier than it was back when these teachings were evolving and created. And so these practices help kind of shed a lot of the external noise that we all experience. And life is really busy and constant, and we're up all the time, we're hustling all the time. So we feel like practices like Kundalini Yoga help us go inward, feel empowered, like you're saying, and see things differently and have that new perspective. I'm curious what that looked like for you when you were really feeling in that, I guess, more desperate space, how you started practicing Kundalini, how you brought yourself to do that. Because if anyone who's listening has not tried Kundalini and you show up to a class, it is not your standard yoga class. It is very hard work. It's meditation, it's mudras, I'm sure Maya, you'll get into that. So I'm curious how you kept showing up for yourself.
Right. So funny enough, I didn't really like my first Kundalini Yoga class because I was coming from Vinyasa. I was doing Vinyasa for about 2 years, like once a week, twice a week. And I was evolving that practice, and I was growing and getting better and stretchier and stronger and whatnot. And to me, that was amazing. Like, oh my God, I could do this now. And it was very, as you said, very different practice. Kundalini Yoga is very different. And how I turned to Kundalini was because I got injured trying to learn a headstand. And I was very competitive to the other people coming to class and seeing the teachers. They're all, like, whoa, would I ever be able to do that? And to me, it was a lot more competitive and a lot more of what my physical body can achieve rather than finding that peace and that yoga. And the yoga means, it comes from the word yoke, which means merging mind, body, and spirit. And for me, that practice was a lot or only about the body and what my body can do. And I wasn't finding stillness. I wasn't finding that quietness in the mind. It was all about, how can I get better? How can my body get better so that I'm not the loser in class, that I am not like the person who can't
do the crow pose.
Right. Yeah. And so trying to learn that headstand, I got injured because when you have 15 people trying to do headstand and you have one teacher, it's really hard for them to observe everybody and be like, oh no, you're doing that wrong, right? And so one morning I woke up and my head was stuck like that. Oh, wow. In one way. And the only thing I could do was just like move my whole body. And I was stuck like that for quite a bit. And after my head came back to straight, I still had this whole side of my neck and my shoulder hurting for a long time. And it's been 5 years maybe. It still is not back to normal. It still hurts. So I stopped going to Vinyasa, and I really wanted to find something. And when I showed up to my first class, I was like, that's not yoga, right? Because in my understanding, yoga was what I was doing. And this is a very different practice. And here's where my ego is trying to protect me from getting any closer to my soul. And it's like, this is stupid. I can do this at home with a YouTube video, and and then I'm like, but I can do any yoga with YouTube at home. So I talked to a friend and she was like, well, give it another try. Go to another teacher. It's a really beautiful practice. And I did. I went to another teacher and I actually had a really great experience. And from then on, it was only a matter of time to go deeper. And I had a friend who was just finishing a Kundalini Yoga teacher training. And there is this beautiful graduation happening for the whole group. And she's inviting all of her friends. And we went there because we all have taken classes at the studio. And jokingly, we really looked at each other, the three of us, and we're like, if you do it, I'll do it. But none of us believed the others will do it.
Yeah.
And at the end, all three of us signed up for teacher training.
Wow.
However, my intention was to deepen my practice, to be held accountable, and to have consistency, because that's one of the most important things with Kundalini Yoga is consistency and dedication. Because if you do it once every, I don't know, couple weeks or once every month, it's absolutely amazing anytime you can do it. But it's not, you won't feel that growth that the consistency brings. And in teacher training is 9 months and you get to do yoga every single day. And so that's how my journey started on really being serious about it, because I have taken, I don't know, maybe 5, maybe 10 classes before I signed up for Kundalini Yoga.
That's crazy.
Yes, before I signed up for teacher training, rather.
Wow.
And so
before just diving straight in, you're just like, I'm going to sample. Okay, I'm ready. And 9-month commitment. Wow.
Yes. And so we do every single day a yoga set and a meditation. And that's another thing that I was missing in Vinyasa was the meditation. Every Kundalini Yoga class has a meditation after the yoga set. And we say that we do the yoga to prepare the body for the meditation. And the meditation is the more important part of the class.
It's like a preparation for it. That's really
yes,
cool.
Because we're moving all that energy in the body through the movements, through the postures, through the breath, through the mudras, through the mantras. We're creating this high vibration within our body. Then we let it settle through the corpse pose or shavasana. And then once that high vibrational energy is settled into our body, it's a lot easier to do the meditation because the mind quiets a lot faster, a lot deeper. And I was doing a yoga set every morning at sunrise, or before sunrise rather, because this is the best time to do yoga. It's actually it's a lot before sunrise. The best time to practice is around 3:30, 4 a.m.
Wow.
Because this is because the earth and the sun are at a certain angle, and the energy of the divine or the universe is a lot more accessible through that time. And also the people around you are sleeping for the most part at 4 a.m.
Yeah, and they should be.
And so the consciousness around you is settled. There's no noise. There's no cars going. There's no people going. There's no minds thinking around you in a big radius, right? Like the whole hemisphere of the planet that you're on. And it's really, really deep in that time. However, I didn't do it at 3 or 4 in the morning, but I was doing it at around 5:30 in the morning. And I would get up, I'll do the set, because I am not a morning person, which I should stop saying, because that's an affirmation. And I will crash on the couch and sleep for another 2 hours after that. And I was doing this for 9 months, every single day. There was points where I was doing yoga in the morning and yoga in the evening. I was doing different sets in the morning and different sets in the afternoon, or the evening rather. So I was really overachieving I was doing so much, like there was a price at the end. And to be honest, there was a price. The price was the way I was feeling and the person that I became through this process of constantly and dedicatedly, if that's even a word, practicing. So it really helped me. Suddenly, I didn't really understand what's happening, but I started seeing myself and my life in a different way. It's not that my life changed. It's how I was viewing my life changed, how I was viewing myself in certain situations, how I was reacting or acting to certain triggers. And this dark cloud that was all around me just starting to dissipate and the sunshine started coming in. And I became a lot lighter and a lot more friendlier and a lot more optimistic and a lot more joyful. And it just really, really took me to a different place.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful and so comforting to hear. And I know that your style might not be everyone's style. I'm trying a couple classes now. I'm going to dive deep into this and dedicate. But what I do want to call out is when you find something that really works for you and dedicating yourself to a practice and just connecting with it and diving deeper and seeing how your life evolves and your perspective changes. I really like how you say that. It's not that your life just magically changed. It's that your perspective changed, how you showed up changed, how you see the world changed. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, you're mentioning this within Kundalini Yoga, being affected by other energies and kind of, it is this process of turning inward, but why that practice in the morning is so powerful when everyone's asleep and kind of, connecting with your own Kundalini energy, waking that up, what that might feel like in the body.
So awakening your Kundalini could look in many different ways. And a lot of people say that it could be dangerous if you have a Kundalini awakening spontaneously.
What would that look like?
I haven't seen that happen to anyone. However, I think I've had that experience once. I did have an experience when I was doing yoga, and I was doing this exercise where my arms were somewhere in front of my chest. I don't really remember. And I could feel the energy really coming through from my hands into my body. And I just felt it and felt it and felt it. And I felt like I was going to really start crying. And so, because I was with other people and also it was streamed on Zoom, I got up and left that room and I went into another room and I just like bursted out in tears and my breathing was really hyperventilated, I guess, and I could feel myself shaking. So I never actually thought about that. That could have been a Kundalini awakening in some way until now. I just thought of it as like an interesting experience. But it wasn't scary to me. It was actually beautiful to experience that energy running through my body. However, if I was by myself, maybe I would have had different experience with what was happening. So it could look very different. However, working with that energy is really powerful because once it starts awakening, I believe it connects you deeper to your higher self. It connects you deeper to the knowledge that is all around us. And that on its own, I believe it's awakening once you start perceiving the energies around you in different ways. So I can't really speak to what exactly Kundalini awakening would be because I'm not sure I've had it yet, even though I had that experience. Also because a lot of people say once you have a Kundalini awakening, you know the unknown. Basically, your psychic abilities become so open that, you know, you can feel what other people will say before they say it, or you know what's going to happen
No, you're
before
like
it happens.
superhuman. Yeah.
You become superhuman. And that's because when you're open to those energies, because energy is information and it's all around us. So when we get into that vibration, we can read and we can understand
Wow.
that
Yeah.
information that is all around us. But because we're in this dense body, we're not really awakened and we're not really able to read all and receive all that energy and information that is floating freely around us.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And so it makes sense that a Kundalini yoga class, in my experience, you know, we're working with so Kundalini, that life force energy. We're waking that up from the base of the spine. It's traveling up our body, and we're doing all these practices to kind of clear our own aura, our own space, our own energy, and kind of realign, but also, I guess, not awaken to the sense that you're speaking, like awaken this sixth sense or superhuman abilities, but awaken to our own inner energy. And that's why it kind of feels like sometimes your cheeks just flush and you're overheated from a really small movement, or I get like almost a rush of adrenaline for the day. Like I feel like I've had like two coffees and I'm good to go, and I have that perspective shift as well. And I think that's because we're engaging with that life force energy and we're bringing it up and we're connecting with it and we're in this dance with it.
Yes, also Kundalini yoga sets, or they're called Kriya,
Mm-hmm.
they are designed to move the energy in the body in certain direction and certain way. And so you're really steering like
Mm-hmm.
coffee, but
Yeah.
you know, you're steering your energy within you. And so if there's any stagnant energy, any stuck emotions, like the energy channels that run through your body are pipes. And you
Mm-hmm.
have emotions and traumas, and you have all kind of things that are stuck in these pipes, so your energy can't really flow through very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we steer that energy, when we activate it, it starts flowing through the channels a lot faster and a lot stronger, and it pushes these blockages. Imagine that pipe, you put high pressure into, and that's blowing
Bust it
out
open. Yeah.
the blocks. And so when we clear little by little these blockages in our energy, we feel our energy more. We feel more energized because now the energy is free to move through the body. These effects are real, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we experience healing through Kundalini yoga, because certain traumas are stuck in our bodies, and with consistent practice, they're being pushed away through the hose,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly they are gone. And a lot
Yeah.
of times in classes, people cry and they don't even know why, because they don't realize what exactly has been pushed open and released, but they feel the emotions of that. And it's happened to me many times in class and meditation to just start crying. And there is nothing sweeter than this release. You know that something good is happening even though you're crying, because we associate crying with something bad, like someone hurt us or we felt something hurt, that's why we're crying.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what crying is all about. It's a release, it's a form of soothing.
Yeah, there's a lot of release that comes from Kundalini. And I'm trying to think of, for someone who hasn't experienced this and is still kind of imagining that yoga class, you show up, you put out your yoga mat, you sit, you get your blocks, your straps, you're ready to go. how can we kind of set someone up for a successful Kundalini class and give them that piece of awareness of what they are entering? And we've touched on a lot of the kind of more spiritual and even somatic experience, like you'll awaken parts of your body that might be storing things and releasing. You are doing these meditations and feeling really into that space, getting more of that mental clarity. And there are a lot of movements within Kundalini Yoga as well, just like there are in other forms of yoga. But to summarize, what would you say is kind of the key ingredients that make a Kundalini practice different than yoga that we may know?
So first and foremost, come with an open mind and curiosity, and don't dismiss it at first. Second, I would say go with it, go through it. Kundalini Yoga has that effect on people to feel like this is not for me, or this is stupid as I thought, or this is not yoga, or this is like, what is this actually? And some people are weirded out about it because, for example, we start the class with chanting a mantra, and a lot of people feel uncomfortable chanting, especially something that they never heard before because the mantra is in Sanskrit. And opening yourself up to new experiences and allowing yourself to participate in that, however weird you think they are. Nobody's recording you. Nobody's like looking at you. At least I don't think so. So just go with it and go through it. A lot of emotions can come up and a lot of resistance can come up, like it did for me, because our ego, or my ego, was like, no, this is stupid. We don't want to go there, because the ego knew that this is going to push it away and open up space for my soul, for my spirit to come forth. And so we can feel a lot of resistance doing the exercises and be like, oh, this, like, why am I doing this? But the structure of the class is follow. We do tune in with a mantra. Then we go through the exercises, and the exercises can be so different. They could be from standing up and jumping and dancing to sitting down with certain position and not moving. It could be movement with mantra. It could be just the mantra with mudra. There's so many things that can happen in one class. And then also one class could be absolutely very different from another. In one class, you can be laying on the floor the whole time and just using your core and lifting your legs in different directions, in different sequences. And in another class, you can be just standing up the whole time, not even sitting. And after we do the class, it could be a posture, holding still. It could be a fast, repetitive movement. There's variations. I would say it's not really a flow, if that's what you're looking for. It could be very challenging because sometimes you can hold a posture for a very long time. And this is where it comes to how strong is your mind, not your body. Ooh. Because the mind is the one who tells us, this is stupid, I'm tired, my hand is hurting, why am I doing this? And there is a point of pain where if you go past it, it becomes easier. But this is the point where we usually give up.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. The ego is like, please, no, this isn't easy. This is hard. I love that advice. There's a lot of resistance that comes up in Kundalini because, and this is my opinion, we're used to pushing through like physically. So we'll go to a class or we'll go to a gym and we're lifting weights. But when it comes to the mental, to sitting in that discomfort, when you're doing a posture that's not so hard, but you're maybe holding it for 11 minutes or even 5 minutes, it's very mentally challenging. And there's a lot of inner chatter that's telling you can't do it. Or you're doing a breathwork pattern, you're not going to pass out, but your brain's trying to convince you that you can't do it, or you need to slow down, or just do normal breathing. And it's in that space that you continue that breathing pattern, even if you give up here and there and you get back into it. It's that getting back into it. It's that being consistent that you get the full effects of this practice. But it's not easy work. And if you look at a Kundalini class, it might look kind of like a joke and kind of easy, but mentally, wow, it's something else. It's really something else. And it's not, I want to say it's not dangerous. I know there's certain caveats, like with breath of fire, if you're female and on your period, that's probably not the time to do that, because it's a lot of like pulsing in your abdomen area. But the instructor will know and be able to guide you. But outside of a couple things here and there, depending on the cycle of life you're on, it's not an unhealthy practice at all. It's just mentally scary.
There's one thing that is very important, that you know yourself and you push yourself to the limits before you're hurting yourself. It is important to push ourselves over our limits, because that's where growth happens. But we also have to know our body and know what's going to hurt us. We have to be careful. Like, I did get hurt because I didn't know my limits and I wanted to be better, and I was doing the thing, and that's what happened. So I can't blame it on the teacher solely that I got hurt. It was me who kept pushing. It was me who didn't perhaps wait after the class and call the teacher and be like, hey, I'm doing this, but I feel like where am I missing? What am I missing? To get more one-on-one. Because when you go to a class, you can't expect a one-on-one treatment. That's not what you're signing up for. And so you have to know your body. And when you feel that it's not your mind, but it's actually your body's limits, then this is where you slow down.
Definitely. And with new practices too, it's extra important. Show yourself compassion. Just showing up to something new is that growth space. I want to ask you, kind of transitioning more into your personal energy work and Juta energy, which is different and another realm that I've been able to experience, like another offering of yours. Let's start with how you discovered this technique, and then we'll dive into what it is like and what I've experienced and all of the goodness of it.
Where it started for me with energy healing is I did Reiki, and I took level 1 and level 2 Reiki training. And I did that because I wanted to do it on myself. I wanted to experience it for myself. I never thought I would be offering that to other people. I've maybe offered it to my mom, but that was not the intention. As it wasn't with Kundalini Yoga. I did not want to be Kundalini Yoga teacher. I signed up for myself. But at the end, I saw what it did for me, and that's why I decided to teach, because I was like, if one person experienced what I experienced with Kundalini Yoga, then it was all worth it. Yeah. So that's what happened with Reiki. I just did it for myself. Never thought I would do that for other people. And I took the classes, I did some Reiki for myself, and then I just like kind of lost interest maybe until 3 years ago, maybe. I had a transformative experience, and I was in Costa Rica, and I was on a plant medicine retreat, and I was in a deep ceremony with ayahuasca, and I thought I fell asleep, but that's probably not what happened. And then suddenly I came back, or woke up, and I came back to the room, and I'm laying on there under a blanket, and I feel like someone's touching me. And I was like, this is weird because like there's nobody here. Like I open my eyes and there's nobody here to be touching me. And then I realized that I was touching myself. However, I couldn't recognize that because my arms were moving, but I wasn't telling them to move.
Whoa. Okay.
So my arms were doing these strokes over my body. It was tapping on different places. It was tapping in different rhythms, in different patterns. It was going in circles. It was a whole thing. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. What is happening here? And so I posed those questions to Spirit. I was like, what is happening? What am I doing? And the answer that I got was that I was doing healing on myself. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. What kind of healing is this? And the answer I got was, this is an ancient healing technique. And I was like, this is really awesome. And I want to learn that. And can I take it out to people and do it not just for myself as I'm doing it now, but do it for other people? And Spirit said, absolutely, you can. And I was like, awesome. So how do I learn it? And the Spirit said, well, you already know it. And I'm like, okay, but
Spirit's so wise.
Is there a book I can read? Is there a teacher I should look for to teach me how to do that? And Spirit again was like, child, you already know that. You're just now remembering. And I'm like, this all sounds really good. And I hear you.
Thank you.
But again, something more tangible that I can actually hold on to. And I asked what is it called? Is there a name for it? And you know, when you're trying to remember someone's name, is it Mary? Is it Maria?
Yeah, it's like on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah. And that's exactly how I felt. Like, what is it called? And I'm like trying to say it, but I can't figure it out. And then suddenly this thing just flashed in front of me, and I was like, oh, it's Juta. And that felt true. I was like, oh, that's what it is. And in Spanish, I think it's pronounced Juta. I don't even know how it's pronounced in English. I call it Juta. It's spelled Juta. So however you want to read it. A lot of people call it Junta, when there is not even an N in it. But it's totally cool. It doesn't really matter what it's called as long as it's working. And I was fascinated by this experience. And I didn't remember, but I guess I had asked Spirit, so if I already know it, how do I summit it? And
great question.
I had gotten the answer, and I guess I had written it down in the morning or in like whenever, I don't know. But I totally forgot about it. So I come back from this retreat, and kind of a lot of other things had happened through the other ceremonies, because that was the very first of 4. So I had other things to unpack and think about, and I kind of like maybe forgot about it or just didn't believe it was real, because I was like, oh, I was in that realm of all possibilities, but now that I'm back in my life, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it true? Is it not true?
Yeah.
How do I do it? Right. So as things happened, and as I said, signs show up, guidance comes in. I went to see a friend of mine at her house, and she was going through some rough time, and she said, I know you know how to do Reiki. Can you do some Reiki on me? I was like, sure. I mean, it's like a bicycle. You don't forget how to ride a bicycle. So yeah, I no problem. So we set her up, we, do all the things that I was taught to do for Reiki. And she lays down and I start doing the Reiki. And suddenly I feel this energy started to get a lot stronger, which, okay, when I was learning Reiki, the teacher's like, you will feel this tingling, you will feel heat or cold or this or that in your hands. I was like, what is she talking about? I don't feel nothing.
So throughout level 1 and 2, you never
felt anything like that. So I am doing the Reiki and I'm like, something's happening. And then one thing that happened in the beginning that was very strong, now it happens, but I don't really pay attention to it, is like my jaw clench.
Ooh, yeah, clenches.
And my tongue gets like really up into the roof of my mouth.
Interesting.
And it's really like this strong energy running through my jaw. I don't know what that's all about. And I felt that and I was like, what is happening? And then suddenly it felt like this portal opened above me.
Whoa.
And my arms started going in these circles and it was so strong. And I was like, I am not doing this. What is happening?
This isn't the Reiki I was trained to do.
No.
Yeah.
And at first I kind of like freaked out because I was like, what is happening? And then I remembered and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. I do know how to do this. I'm doing it right now. And I was just like, oh my God, like that was not a dream. That was real. This is happening. Whoa.
Wow.
And so for almost an hour, like I was exhausted. Like my arms were so tired at the end because it was literally an hour of
like sloshing around.
Yes, it was so funny because I will be doing, let's say, this for like a long time and I'm like tired of it. Let's switch it up and I will try to like start doing something else. Let's say this. And I will do 1, 2, 3, go back to whatever it was. And I was like, so I can't really tell you what to do. Okay, let's see how that goes. And every time I
see, like you could kind of direct your hand. So even if they were kind of waving around in one way, then you could say, okay, let's try it this way and just kind of go with it.
The opposite. It would not.
You couldn't do that.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're just witnessing it again. You're just witnessing your arms do their thing.
Absolutely. I had control over them, right? I could stop. It's not like, oh, I was possessed. It's not like that.
Good distinction. Not possessed.
Right.
They were
But if I was trying to change the pattern, it will go back to where it was supposed to be. For example, if I am tapping over here and I decide I want to tap over here, I would move my hands here and they would just gently take me back to where it was supposed to be. If I am doing this and I'll be like, okay, now let's, because I tested it. Trust me. I was like, okay.
Because your mind is getting in there, right? And your mind is like, I want to try something else. But the energy healing is like, well, this is what's working and this is what we're doing. This is the focus.
Yes. And so early on, I learned that it's not up to me. Like I'm not doing this thing. I'm just there to witness it. And it was just, wow. It was, I can't even explain how I felt about it. It was just, I was blown away.
And how was your friend? How did that session go? Were you both like, whoa, that was magical and she felt healed? And
I mean, it was pretty much for me, I was like, I couldn't even like believe what happened. And she felt really good. She was, it's not that she had any physical thing that we were working on. It was just like she was stressed and exhausted of like what she was dealing with. So she had a really great relaxation. And when we're stressed, we don't allow ourselves to relax enough to regenerate our energy, to regenerate our bodies. And so that's why energy healing, I think it's so important in today's world, is not only to heal ourselves, but to allow ourselves to relax and to let our body heal itself.
That's so powerful.
Because we're all the time on the go, 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 as you said earlier, hustling. And we're always on to the next thing. And a lot of us don't take the time to really relax. And even if we do try to relax, our minds often don't let us. And even when we're sleeping and that's when we regenerate. That's when we heal. That's when our body's like, okay, now's the time. Let's go to work to like get the things in balance. Even when we sleep nowadays, we don't really get that deep into relaxation because we're like on our phones right before bed, or we're watching TV or whatever movies we watch. Something occupies our subconscious and doesn't allow us to go that deep into relaxation for the body to start that regenerative process. And the thing I have found with Juta healing is that the energy that comes through is so strong and so high vibrational that it affects the mind really fast to allow the mind to relax, which allows the body to relax. And that's where that healing happens.
Our bodies know how to heal themselves if they're given the opportunity to deeply relax. And so even with all the buzz of sleep, but pings on our phone and light coming in and TV shows and things keeping us up, we don't always get the opportunity to deeply relax.
Exactly. And so what happens is that the energy that comes through is so deep and so strong that it affects not just our mind, not just our bodies, but also our minds. And so it calms the mind and it brings us into that state of almost asleep, but not quite. Maybe we're dreaming, but we're also very aware that we're dreaming. So we know we're really not dreaming. And that is the place of magic. That is when we're really thinning the veil between physicality and spirituality, maybe, between what's here and what's everywhere. And when the veil is that thin, the opportunity for other things to happen, for example, we can be visited by loved ones that have crossed over. We can be visited by spiritual masters, by angels, archangels, by our higher self. We could be sent to a memory that is very important for our current situation. We could be given answers to our questions. We could be given guidance. So that is the place where all knowledge exists, and we are in this frequency that we can receive it, because the energy that is running through us, that's coming through, is really, really high energy, like high vibration rather.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, because it's so hard to summarize an experience that is in this energetic space. And for me, because I've been to your classes before, I'm also a big fan of sound healing and breathwork classes, and also your Kundalini classes. And the way that I would say this is different than I would say the closest it feels is kind of a combination between breathwork and a sound bath where you you're really open to receiving a lot of information, but just like sound, you're in a full surrender state. You're lying down, you're fully receiving. There's no work you have to put out, which is nice, and a nice rest from breath work where you're like working hard to peel back the layers. So I like that it's a yin style energy experience. And the sensation that I get every time is my head gets really like heavy in a really grounding way. It's like fuzzy and just warm and comforting. And I almost don't really notice that until I'm almost like asleep in Juta classes. Like I'm almost at that thin veil falling asleep. And then I notice, I'm like, wait, this isn't how I normally feel. And my mind kicks in, my ego kicks in, like, what the heck is going on here? And then I let go because I feel like safe and supported. And you're really holding that container. And I'm like, wait, this is amazing. I'm going to enjoy it. And a lot of times I don't remember what else happens in Juta energy. And I think it's to your point on that deep relaxation. Like, do you need to know what happens, or do you just need to feel the effects of being deeply restored and nourished? So it's such a treat. I love it.
I love it too, because as the energy comes through me, it brings me a lot of healing. It takes me also in a really deep state of relaxation, even though I am doing some kind of work because my arms are still moving. I get into that trance state where time actually doesn't exist for me in that moment. And it's really interesting that I think it's been 5 minutes and it actually has been 25 minutes.
Wow.
And as I am the host that the energy comes through, also my pipe is being cleaned as well, because I'm also receiving that energy while I'm transmitting it. And it's one of the things I love doing the most, because it's just so nice. It feels so good. And it's so rewarding when someone comes back to me and tells me about their experience and how meaningful it was for them. Or when I've had physical healing happen to people, literally in the physical realm, something that was hurting and it was a visible thing, it disappeared 2 days after our session. And so it's been really humbling to know that this magic exists and that I'm able to be the conduit for it.
We've talked about you discovering it and then kind of forgetting and then reaccessing it with that friend and having a really amazing experience using it. I'm wondering if from that moment, from that experience, was it just like in you and you were ready to go and share that with the world? Was there discomfort? Is there discomfort in sharing? Or is there just, this works? I don't have all the answers, but I know my intention and I know its healing abilities, and I'm just here to offer it.
Yes and yes and no. So before I started, well, okay, first of all, I just came back and told my husband, I was like, you can't believe what happened. And so he was like, oh, so now you have superpowers? So that's what he calls it, superpowers. But I didn't tell anybody besides him for a long time. And I was working on myself. I was doing healing on myself for hours. I was getting to know it. I was getting to know the movements, even though there is no getting to know them. Like, they're always different, and it depends on the group or depends on the individual I'm working with. Sometimes it's very calm and very fluid, and sometimes it's chaotic and a lot more work for my arms. Sometimes I shake, sometimes I get into these weird postures, and it's just a whole thing. It depends on what's happening with the energy at the moment. But I did not tell a lot of people, like nobody, for a long time. And because I was afraid I was going to be seen as like woo woo crazy. I still have a lot of friends that I haven't even told. Like a lot of my friends, they think all I do is teach yoga and bang some balls. And they don't even know about this side of me. Because I don't know, I haven't gotten the courage to tell them. Also because in some way, this is kind of inexplainable, but also there's so much science behind it now on how, we're energy and energy is transferable and energy is everywhere and so forth. But yeah, I don't know all the answers. And frankly, I don't know what's going on most of the time. Sometimes I do get insights, and sometimes I know what is happening and what has been worked on, and I get messages to what is happening with that person. I've had rare occasions where like souls will come in to talk to me, is strongly said, because like I get into my head and then I kind of like chase them away. But I've had that happen, but I don't advertise that because that's not something I am accustomed to. It's not something that happens all the time. Perhaps with time and developing my abilities and deepening my connection to spirit and to my higher self, maybe that will become more common in my sessions. But now is a gift. If it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it wasn't meant to happen. And then one day I decided that this gift needs to be shared. And so I started opening up and started telling more people. And that's where I'm at right now. So with certain people, I guess I read the people and I'm like, no, I don't feel like you need to know that right now about me. And with other people, it's like, oh my God, Maya, let me tell you what I do. Right. So I guess it's all vibrational and how I feel with the person I'm talking to. But as this is something I really want to bring out to the world, and have as many people as possible benefit from it, I am working on myself to be more confident and not afraid to share with people what I do.
Here you are talking about it. So I'm really excited for you. I've received this healing and I totally understand. And that's why I even asked. Like, I'm sure it's uncomfortable to be like, oh, there's this thing that you haven't heard of that I've discovered that is really powerful, but I also can't like link you to a website or find you the guru who created it. Like, I just know it and I just do it. So I think that takes a lot of nerve to even go out and practice. And I'm so grateful for that in you because I've received such amazing healing and you've worked with so many people outside of me. So I know that. And I think there's something to be said, like what you're mentioning with the energy of people, the vibration of people, when there's such a resistance and this lack of curiosity doesn't feel like the right space to share. And I think that's totally okay. Like why you don't have to beg and knock on everyone's door for them to understand. And there's going to be a time when people in your life are like, oh yeah, I am curious to know more about what you're doing and what you're creating. And possibly the more open you become with it, the more receptive they will be to hearing it. So.
And that's why Kundalini Yoga is not for everyone, because if you're not ready to face your fears, to face your demons, to go down the rabbit hole of shadow work, because Kundalini Yoga could be kind of like shadow work. If you're not ready, you're not going to like this practice.
So tell us how it truly found you, Kundalini Yoga.
I wasn't doing any yoga because I was injured, and I was just on the internet, on YouTube, and watching videos of this talk show, Bulgarian talk show. I'm from Bulgaria. So I'm watching this kind of like spiritual woo talk show that I'm like, whoa, that's on TV in Bulgaria. Okay, I love it. And so the guest of the show was this woman, and she said Kundalini Yoga. And I was like, oh, what is that? And she kept talking about it. And then she happened to live in Los Angeles. It's a Bulgarian woman that lives in Los Angeles. And I was like, oh my God, I have to try her class. What is this Kundalini Yoga? I'm so fascinated. I need to try it. And so she says where she teaches, and I go and I Google it, and that studio is closed. Doesn't exist anymore. And I'm like, what a bummer. But I tell my friend, I was like, hey, have you tried this Kundalini Yoga thing? And she was like, yeah, I've heard about it. I want to try it. I was like, okay, let's try it. And so she goes and tries it without me. And she's like, oh my God, it was so good. I was like, okay. Yeah, so I guess I have to try it. And it took me a long time to get to try it, right? And I tried it, and we talked about how I signed up for teacher training, and it was amazing. And then remember I told you when we signed up, we were at a graduation. So here comes my graduation. And the training happens on a Saturday and Sunday all day long. So during a training weekend, there's only one class on a Saturday and one class on a Sunday that is open for the public. So it's a Kundalini Yoga class that anyone can sign up for and do it with us, with the students group. So comes Sunday, graduation day, and people are starting to come in, and we're like moving our mats to make room for more mats to come in. And I'm sitting there waiting for, everybody to settle in and for the class to start. And then there's this guy next to me talking to a woman next to him. And they're talking, and I'm like, there's something about these people. And they're talking in English, and I'm like, this voice sounds really familiar. And I look at the woman, and I was like, she looks familiar. Who is she? I'm trying to remember where she's familiar from. And it suddenly hits me. And I ask her, I'm like, I am so sorry to interrupt you. Is your name this? And she looks at me, she's like, yeah. And I break down in tears because,
oh my gosh, who is she?
This is the woman from the talk show.
Wow.
She's sitting next to me on my graduation day when she was the one who introduced me to this practice.
Yeah, what a beautiful kind of literal graduation, full circle, that you're on the path that you committed because this woman just showed you the way.
I was like, I break down in tears. I'm tearing almost every time I talk about this, because it's unbelievable how the universe will send you these confirmations that you're on the right path, that this was the right way for you. Because, what are the chances? What are the chances that she will show up at graduation and there's 30 people in the studio, but she's a person, what is it called? She's one person away from me.
Yeah.
So that I'm able to hear her voice.
She could have just been in the corner and you never would have seen her, and just
I would have never known she was there.
Yeah.
But she's almost right next to me. And then I called my teacher, and I'm crying down. I was like, she's the reason I'm here. And it was beautiful. And I told her, I was like, you are the reason I'm here, because I, heard you talking, and then here I am graduating.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. This is like absolutely mind-blowing to me how the universe has its ways to guide us and to send us signs and to send us directions in different ways, and then give us the confirmation of like, yeah, that was it. You got it. You got it.
I'm so happy you just said that, because I think in everything we're talking about, and I keep alluding to this idea that it's so hard to find evidence and proof, and we're trying to show people that might not be open to all this information, but it's these universal signs that are so meaningful to us, right? Like it brings you to tears, and this happened years ago because that was the universe saying, I got you. You're doing it. You're on the path. This is it for you. And it could be something really small. It could be something really big. It could be constant things. It's all these nudges and encouragement, and it keeps us going. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I will never stop telling this story because it just gives me chills.
Thank you so much. Thank you for opening up, being vulnerable, sharing your experience, your background. I'd love for you to share where we can find you if people want to experience Juta energy, if they're in LA, if they're outside of LA. What's the best way to find you?
My website is satnamlove.com. You can always reach me through my website. My email is satnamlovewithmaya@gmail.com. My Instagram is sat.nam.love. And I recently got on TikTok, which
Woo! Cool.
I know. I'm finally catching up to the trends. I think my TikTok is Juta Energy Healing, but I'm not really sure.
Well, we'll have everything in the show notes too, but I wanted you to just blast that.
Yeah, so even if you're not in Los Angeles, I do a lot of sessions on Zoom. Energy doesn't know time and space, and it travels. So I've had beautiful sessions from distance. So if you're eager to experience it, let me know. Connect with me, and we'll find a way to make it happen.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Energy is so much more than all these virtual chats and conversations. It's everywhere. It's part of everything. So, thanks for that reminder, and thanks for being on this episode. I'm so grateful, and I'm just so lucky that I have you in my life and you're part of my Kundalini practice. So, I love learning from you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I am really happy that we found each other, and I enjoy having you in class, and I enjoy connecting with you outside of class. So thanks for having me, and I'm grateful you're here.
Aw, thanks. All right. Bye.
Bye.